Faze did something today that I don't think we've seen in Halo Infinite's history quite yet. It's a bit surprising that they would opt to go this route, but Faze did disqualify themselves from the bracket in the pool play qualifier for the Salt Lake City Major. Now, this was a bit head scratching for many because it seemed like a great opportunity for them to get a second seed spot in pool play. In fact, when you look at how the pool plays were arranged, you would see that first place qualifier spot would go to pool D, second to pool C, third to pool A, and then that pool D spot, that first spot, was actually taken by Space Station Gaming as they had the most points when the qualifier started. But because Faze decided to disqualify themselves here against Mythic Gaming, it seems as if that they're going to get that number 10 spot, and people were immediately trying to find out what the game theory behind this was. And the idea was they didn't want to play SSG. They would rather go and play TSM. And, I can understand that. TSM obviously had a great performance at HCS Dallas where they got top 3, but the last few weeks have been kind of a downtrend for them. They had a 4-0 loss against Complexity and a 4-0 loss against Shopify Rebellion in the HCS Pro League, so maybe things aren't looking so high for them at the moment. But I will say TSM is a fantastic LAN team, and I wouldn't say that's a guaranteed win by Faze by any means. And the only reason I want to push back a bit on the theory that they threw to get an easier pool is because look at that second spot right there, EU qualifier first place. That's likely to be this Nemesis squad, and they're very, very good. A lot of people consider them to be the 5th best team when we talk about the big equation of things. They've been fantastic. It's all the best players from Europe, led by Woodham and everyone over there. They've been fantastic. They beat Optic Gaming. Like we know what they're capable of. So that means when I look at this, I don't know if Pool B is necessarily easier, especially when you go down the road and you look a little bit further as to what Pool D might be, right? Obviously, you have SSG there. FaZe beat SSG in their last Pro League appearance. So, you have that momentum against them. It would be the second next most qualifier points in the HCS after the qualifier is done that would get that third place spot. And when you look at what the seeding has been like and you go down the list, looks like it would be like, assuming FaZe gets there, you'd be looking at Omit or like Unreal Nightmare potentially if the bracket works out that way. I think right now it's going to be Unreal Nightmare that takes that spot, and I'm pretty sure it would be basically the same unless Unreal Nightmare is able to get a top 4 finish in the bracket this weekend. So when I look at the pools, to me, Pool D actually looks a bit easier. Like, I don't necessarily know if this was truly the case of throwing for the correct pool here, because ESM, like, yeah, they might be on a downtrend, but that's a team that shows up for lands. The Nemesis team there, that's going to become a bloodbath in that bracket. And then on Pool D side, you have 2 teams that you should have a favorable matchup with. Maybe you're concerned about the team from Mexico or Mindfreak coming in winners bracket from the open bracket, but I don't necessarily see that being the case there. In my opinion, I think Pool D is actually the easier spot if they were intentionally DQing themselves to get Pool B, like why they thought Pool B might be an easier spot. I did reach out to King J for comments, and he did say that the only reason FaZe was doing this was because they wanted a day off. In fact, let me pull up what he told me verbatim. He said, quote, "Realized we were in pools no matter what happened, and we wanted the weekend off since we basically have no days off after this." And I think that's understandable. Right now, everything's pointing towards practice, and to them, any pool is going to be the same pool, especially if it's between Pool B and Pool D. So I can understand that thought process, though there is a conversation to be had about potentially not playing in tournaments, not competing, and what that has to do with the rules. Like, we've seen famous cases of this. So you go back to the Olympics in 2012, there was players that were banned for throwing matches to get better placings into the second stage of a tournament. Similar to this situation, though I will put in the big caveat that I think the big difference between what Faze is doing here and what happened in this match in the Olympics is it wasn't during a match. They just decided not to play in a tournament. And to me, that's fine. Like, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I will say in the rule book, there is this provision under collusion on the cheating tab for intentionally losing a game or match, altering performance for any reasons, or attempting to induce other participants to do so. I don't think this necessarily falls. I saw some discussion online about that potentially being a sticking point. I just don't necessarily see it, because once again, they're not actually playing the match. They're just disqualifying themselves, and I don't think there's anything that should be punished in that situation. I don't see that path forward right now. I kind of see this as Faze being ready for their next land. They know that they're going to be locked in against TSM. Nemesis is going to be their targets. They're going to get themselves practiced up and ready for that. But what I'm really curious about is more about what you guys think. Do you think a team should be able to do this, right? Disqualify themselves and get themselves that spot in the pool play? Is it more of a case of bending the rules to how you want it, or do you think there's something that needs to be done in this spot to maybe prevent this sort of situation from happening in the future? Obviously, this was such a unique situation where, because so many team changes happened after DreamHack Dallas, not all the pools were just filled the way that they normally would be. This is the first time I've ever seen only 3 pools be secured, and having a first seed in the pool be done by points after a qualification registration. That's just unheard of, right? And I don't envy anyone that had to make all this a reality, trying to figure out how all these qualifications were going to happen because of all those changes. But guys, let me know what's your thoughts. Where do you think what Faze should do? Do you agree with it? Do you think it's kind of a bad mojo for them? I feel like TSM is going to be playing with a extra little chip on their shoulder, and that's all the news that happened. If you guys are interested in the conclusion of the qualifier, that's going to happen tomorrow here on LVT Halo, and there's a ton of good teams up for grabs trying to get those top spots, and I'm curious who's going to end up in SSG's pool. It's going to be a fun watch. Come watch it here on the YouTube, or you can head over to Twitch.